Hello and welcome. My name is Leslie Stearns. I'm a lead talent development facilitator here at Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area. And I'm pleased that you're with me for this recording of preparing for the interview. It's important to become familiar with various types of interviews. There's so many out there right now. And also how to understand and research and get ready for that interview once it takes place, which is why we'll talk about practicing common and difficult interview questions and how you answer. And you're always wanting to answer to reinforce your abilities, skills, and qualification for the role you're interviewing for. We'll also talk about how to make a positive first impression and, well, how to close that interview as well, and what to do once the interview has taken place. The keys to an interview is to look at the interviewer from the employer's perspective. What do they need to know about you? They need to know your career story and why you're a good fit. Because as you answer those questions, you're going to always reinforce your qualifications, your assets, and even your good personality traits. And it's really important. One of those keys is to build a rapport with everyone. Maybe it's an interview panel that you're on, whether it's a Zoom call, a telephone interview, or face to face. Building rapport is key. Now, there are many types of interviews, as I mentioned earlier. You have the phone interview. This is where either a recruiter might call you and ask you maybe some of your salary requirements or your years of experience, or the interview takes place via the phone. This helps employers screen candidates quickly, and it saves time and cost for everyone. It also can help identify candidates with good communication skills. And it's good for long distance candidates. Maybe you're going to be interviewing for a remote opportunity. Now, a drawback to a phone interview, maybe you're at a location where the call drops or you have interruption or noise in the background. You have no eye to eye contact or you can't read body language. So it's hard to build that rapport. So you need to be on your A game. Go ahead and dress for that phone interview from head to toe. That'll boost your confidence and also put you in the right mindset. Now, these types of interviews can take anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes. So, practice your basic interview questions, know which qualifications you want to talk about. Then there's the digital interview. Now, the digital interview is when you've applied for a job online and maybe you're redirected directly to start your own recording or digital interview. Employers use this because they can view your responses and, those responses to the specific positions and related questions that they're going to ask. It saves time and cost for everyone. And again, employers can identify candidates with good personal skills as well as those communication skills. Now, a drawback to a digital interview, you have a limited time to think before the recording either begins or it's hard to get prepared. There's no eye to eye contact, and it's difficult to build rapport. It can be stressful if you're not a quick thinker or less tech savvy. So you need to be prepared. It's important to read instructions very carefully and maybe take advantage of practice runs. Higher View is a leader in digital technology, and you can practice on that website where you're looking at questions and then recording your responses. But it's also important to research the company. Use the brand in your responses of that company. That's appropriate. You want to also make sure you're appropriately dressed for an interview for those digital interviews. Then you have the video or Skype interview. Now, this is where you do get to see each other's body language. Saves time for everyone. And, you need to set up an account, maybe familiarize yourself, whether it's going to be YouTube videos to help you understand how to use Teams or GoToMeeting or Zoom or even Skype. Now, technical issues can arise either with the software, your computer, loss of connection during the interview. That can even happen for the employer as well. So keep their phone number handy, but be on your A game. The candidate pool could be larger. So, to get ready for a Skype interview, make sure that you practice with a family member. Make sure you're skilled on the technology. Maybe set up a mock interview with someone you know, or better yet, reach out to staff here. We'll help you check your tech and practice some interview questions as well. Now, these types of video interviews can take about 30 minutes. Then there's the panel interview. Now, this sort of reduces the bias on the part of the interviewers. You have the opportunity to gain different perspectives of the position and company from the people that are interviewing you, and possibly the opportunity to meet your new teammates as well if hired. Now, a drawback to panel interviews, there's a risk of the interviewers not agreeing on a candidate. Or it can be unsettling to have all eyes on you at one time. And so be prepared. This is where a mock interview comes in handy. And practice your success stories. You know, those behavioral questions you'll be asked of tell me a time when you, well, this is where you're going to brag about yourself a little bit in this interview. Now, panel interviews can take about 45 minutes or longer. Interviewers will take time, asking questions, taking notes. So just smile during those awkward pauses. Group interviews, this is where you're going to need an icebreaker. Not everyone in a group interview is necessarily competing for the same job, and this allows employers to sort of assess your team building skills. Now, the drawback to a group interview, it's more difficult maybe to obtain the attention from the deciding manager or build rapport. You have to be a little assertive and you know, show your interpersonal and team working skills and being assertive maybe to get noticed. Now, these types of interviews could take anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. And then there's a good old fashioned one on one interview. Employer and candidate can really build rapport, read each other's body language. You have that opportunity to build that instant chemistry with them. You can also gain, you know, the employer is going to gain whether or not you're qualified for the job. Now, these interviews are costly and time consuming, and travel can add up. Sometimes we're a little nervous, and that can affect the bias of the employer as well. So practice with another mock interview. Prepare your responses to common interview questions and realize your body language. Try not to fidget, smile, make good eye contact, and smiling is super important. These can take about 45 minutes. And then lastly, there's the assessment. Sometimes after an interview, whether it's a video or a phone call or in person, you might ask or be redirected to take an assessment. Assessments, this is might be assessing your abilities for specific skills for the position. Mm. So employers can evaluate a large candidate for specific skills they need to see. So check your spam and your email, your folder, your spam folder. Make sure you don't miss any incoming email about being asked to take an assessment. But what's really important, no matter what type of interview, you sort of research the organization, you found the job opportunity. Well, now dive in a little deeper. What can you find out about the company? Maybe study labor market information. This will help you know your worth ahead of the salary negotiation. In other words, use labor market information to look up a specific job title due to the years of experience you have, or accreditation or training. That'll let you know what kind of salary you can ask for. But you also maybe want to try to connect with your networking contacts, maybe learn more about the employer. Follow the company on LinkedIn, reach out to people that work there, maybe get some insight. Utilize all your online resources to gain information and reviews about the company as well. But don't forget to go directly to the company's website, look at their blog, their news feed. This will help you get some insight into the culture and vibe of that company. It'll also help you determine what you need to talk about in your interview so that you can ensure that you can fulfill that employer's needs. So utilize labor market, Indeed, Glassdoor, and your networking contacts. Research that company. And what to say in an interview. You know, You need to sort of know what you're going to emphasize in your interview. This will really ensure your success of that outcome. Show a track record of successes. In other words, one of the first things you want to communicate is what you've been successful in the past. Whether it's a specific job or responsibilities. In today's climate, hiring managers want to bet on people that will have a great accomplishments to date. So be prepared to share examples of what you've done and how you had an impact. And talk about future value. In addition to articulating your previous experience, you'll also want to talk about your future value to that organization. Leaders want to hire someone who can hit the ground running in terms of skills they already possess, but they also want to invest in someone who will add value over time, which means that you have the ability to learn, grow, and adapt, as well as adjust. So you want to balance talking about your enthusiasm for the role and show interest in the position. That's the best way. A red flag for an interviewer is the person who talks too much about their interest in the company and not about your interest in the job. Talk about the role. You want to do both, yes, but they also want to know the employer that you're genuinely interested in the job that you're looking to fill. So talk about your understanding of the job and your potential fit. And you can do that by talking up your skills. So you want to do this by not just listing them, but tell stories that demonstrate your talents and how you put them to practice. Employers will be listening for both soft skills, such as communication, as well as hard skills, negotiation. Maybe you speak a different language and come across professionally. You're communicating plenty of content about yourself and your interest in the role in the company, but you also want to establish some rapport with the interviewer. So be confident, but also be curious. Prepare some questions and listen to the answers. Give your full attention to the interviewer and take a professional tone, whether an easy manner in which you accommodate your authenticity. Put your best foot forward. Just be yourself. Your greatest success and your greatest contributions and results, you'll find you that can convey you're the best match for that job, for that company. And what to wear in an interview? Researching the company will give you an insight. But the best thing to do if you're not too sure, here in Texas, smart casual is the way to go, both for men and women. This just might be a button down shirt, a neutral color. Maybe you don't need a tie or a jacket, neutral colored pants or chinos, closed-toed shoes, patent leather, or something comfortable. You might be walking to from building to building as you're going to interview. Maybe if it goes so well, you'll go into a second round of interviews. But wear neutral colors. Don't wear a lot of patterns. You want you to be the star, and they want to focus on you and that smile, and that good eye contact. But there's also business casual. And this is where you might wear maybe coordinated business jacket or pants or skirt, tailored pants, maybe. Again, leather shoes might be the way to go. And then you have business formal, depending on the company. This is where you will need a suit and one that's tailored. You'll need formal attire, matching pants and slacks, and suits or slacks that match the top. Good color choices are black, navy, or gray. Again, lots of options for these traditional suits. And what to have when you go to an interview or around you, if it's a phone interview. Go ahead and have your references available. Now, you'll want to reach out to your references and let them know what interview you've got and what company and what role. That way they could speak highly of your abilities when contacted. Always take extra copies of your resume and have that when if asked to provide, and always have questions to ask the employer. We're going to help you out with that in just a moment. Have pen and paper handy so you can take notes, and maybe work samples are required. Maybe you design a web design or You need to have some kind of work samples, copies of documents that the employer has requested. I always tell people when you go to an interview, take your photo ID, your social security card, and know your bank or savings account checking number and routing number. That way, if the interview goes so well, you might be starting your I-9 or onboarding paperwork, but always have a big smile. Super important. Have your phone with you, have it tucked out of view just in case you need to contact or call anybody, and put it on silent. And dealing with that interview nerves or fear, it happens for everybody. And I'm going to give you some tips. Eat a good breakfast or lunch. It doesn't matter. A great interview starts with a good meal. For some, this means going the healthy route. For others, maybe indulging in your favorite comfort food. There's no right answer. Just make it right for you, but make it food. You want to get those solid interview answers and not be focusing on your tummy grumbling. But give yourself a pep talk. It's not crazy to talk to yourself. It's actually smart and scientifically proven to help motivate yourself. Tell yourself all the things you need to hear before that interview. You're smart. I'm qualified for this role. I really want this job. I'm going to nail this interview. Better yet, call an uplifting friend. Nothing's better than the encouragement of a caring, positive friend or family member. Give us a call. We'll go through a mock interview. We'll be your cheerleader. But practice makes perfect when it comes to getting prepared for an interview. It is super important to review that job description. Write out a list of questions the employer may ask and think about success stories you want to talk about and those behavioral responses. And those questions again of tell me a time when there's either the STAR, START, or experience plus learn equal grow methods to those types of questions. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But if you practice, you're going to decrease your nervousness and it'll also increase your confidence. Sometimes the best thing to do is just read your resume aloud to yourself. If it's been a while since you've been on an interview, just hearing ourselves talk about our success stories, bragging a bit. Yep, that's what we could do in an interview. You know, you do a mock interview, record yourself. A quote from Vince Lombardi: practice does not make perfect, only perfect practice makes perfect. So, in an interview, listen carefully to determine the question behind the question. What does that employer really want to know? And answer just the question. Even if the question triggers something else you want to bring up, jot a note. Bring it up at the end of the interview. Be sure that you're listening and communicating effectively with that interviewer. Now, as you practice, practice your responses out loud, getting comfortable hearing your tone, pitch, and rate of speech. Practice with someone else or maybe in front of a mirror. And nowadays, again, we've got our phones. You can record yourself and play it back. Look at those non-verbal cues, your body language. Am I making good eye contact? Am I looking up at the camera lens? So those behavioral questions, here's the STAR method. Questions, again, as I've said, tell me a time when you, or how did you execute Project X? This is where you want to emphasize what you did and how you made a difference because your past behavior predicts your future success and you'll gain points when employers are impressed with your career stories or success stories. So, again, a situation, an example of something that you were involved in that had a positive outcome. And then talk about the tasks. Describe the goal you were working towards within that situation, and then the actions, what steps you actually took. And then finally, the result. What were the positive results of all your great actions? Then there's a behavioral response experience plus learn equal grow. Again, you're summarizing a situation from your past, the experience, and you're going to talk about that situation, what it taught you, what you learned, better processes, your how you grew, discuss what you learned and how you'll be a more valuable employee because of that experience. Because every experience is an opportunity to learn and grow. Another model for answering behavioral questions is the START. This is a really good way, especially if you are making a career change. This is a method you might want to tie in together when answering those questions. Tell me a time when. Because again, a situation, an example of a situation that involved results of a positive outcome, explaining the tasks at hand, working towards the goal and the actions, that's the bulk of your story. And then what were the positive results? But then there's also the tie. This is where you connect the dots and tie the story to the company and the positions you're interviewing for. So you possibly have those transferable skills and you're moving from one industry into another. Tie it all together for the interviewer. And in interviews, first impressions matter. In a survey of 2,000 bosses, 33% claimed that they knew within the first 90 seconds of an interview whether they were going to hire somebody. That's because we have nonverbal communication. And there's some mistakes that we make in a job interview. It could be our appearance, maybe not having good eye contact, not smiling enough, or the handshake. You want to get that right. You want to match the grip, 2 second, 3 second rule. And again, the confidence in our voice, the way we walk, the way we hold ourselves. First impressions matter. Workforce Solutions, we offer LinkedIn Learning for free. There's some LinkedIn Learning courses that can help you with that first impression because they are everything. Whether it's making a first positive impression, that first few 10 to seconds that you have. So reach out to us if you're interested in LinkedIn Learning because you want to display confidence and you can with your body language. A good attitude and confidence are key to landing that job. Even though a job hunter might feel comfortable on the inside, you may need to make sure that your body language is matching up with what you're saying because you don't want to tell a different story. And do remember, an interview starts the second you arrive to that interview site or pick up that phone or turn on that camera. Good posture and calm demeanor are essential, whether you're in the office or in the parking lot. Interviewees shouldn't, you need to stand up straight. You need to, you know, smile and be engaging with everybody you come in contact with. And when you finally meet the hiring manager, that firm handshake, display confidence. Smiling is particularly important. Again, 40% of interviewers said that not having a smile was reason enough not to consider a candidate. But talk about the desirable qualities you have, the ones that the employer needs. And, if you're starting over, just starting your career or a new job, you need to exhibit the right traits that'll help increase your chances of success throughout your career. You also need to highlight these attributes to make a great impression to that new employer. So, being a good communicator, good verbal, nonverbal, written communication skills are important. They're essential in any role. Being able to deliver and understand information quickly and accurately, and being motivated. Do you take the initiative to do something when things need to get done without asking to do it? Whatever, you can do beyond the call of duty in order to meet goals or solve problems. Supervisors take notice of employees who are productive and can anticipate problems ahead of time and also bring solutions. So be a contributor as well. Take the initiative of a new policy or procedure, especially if it saves time or money or increases customer satisfaction. Make the suggestion, but be adaptable as well. In this ever-changing world, employees, excuse me, are often asked to learn new programs, take on new responsibilities, or maybe even work with another department within the organization. So show how you're willing to adjust and be responsible. Follow through on what you say. And whether it's for a customer or a coworker, and be polite, being friendly and approachable with everyone. Greet coworkers with good morning and be courteous, say thank you. And take the time to acknowledge your coworkers of the good job they do as well. And that positive attitude. Employees who come to work with optimistic and energetic every day are more productive. And so these are traits and qualities that can be an asset to you and definitely to an employer. So identify your assets, you know, whether you are empathetic, friendly, a good listener, you're committed, you're confident, you're very resourceful, you've got great math skills, you have a good sense of humor, you're curious, dependable. Talk about these traits in your interview. So when opening an interview, you want to be friendly, you want to smile, introduce yourself, use appropriate nonverbal communication. You're smiling, your eye contact, your body posture. Don't be fidgeting with your hands, don't have your arms crossed, have an open body stance. Offer to provide a resume. And a key here, it's really important at the beginning of the interview. Once that first question is asked, thank you for that question. But before I answer, I would like to say I'd like to thank everyone here for the opportunity to interview today, but also thank them at the end of the interview. Mm, It'll have a great impact if you thank them both at the beginning and end. And as you're answering questions, what is the question behind the question? What do they really want to know? So when they ask, why are you interested in this company? Well, they want to know why you're applying for them rather than their competitors. So to answer this effectively, you have to do your research on the company and know why it's a good place to work there. Talk about it. What can you do for this company? Well, they want to know how you're going to benefit the company if they hire you. So, do you have the skills to complete the tasks for the positions? So, you need to know what skills are required and be able to talk about how you can tick those boxes for that employer. And what kind of person are you? They're asking really here about your personality and your work habits and your assets. They want to sort of know what kind of character, what personality do you have? And does it match their company values? So you want to be able to communicate this, and you can through your success stories and examples of your past. And what sets you apart from everyone else? In other words, what makes you unique and more qualified than anybody? So, do you have a better work ethic? Do you work more efficiently? What sets you apart from everybody else? So, common interview questions. These are great questions to practice on when you get ready for that interview. Tell me about yourself. Now, they don't want to know where you grew up and where you went to school. They want to know about your career. You know, what is your passion in the occupations you've held? And why do you want to work for this company? This is where you've done your research and you're going to explain why you want to work there. You know what the company provides and you're serious about this job. What are your greatest strengths? You know, Sometimes we take our greatest strengths for granted and we don't want to brag. Well, in an interview, you are going to sort of brag about what you can do. This is a place for you to promote your assets, especially those that relate to the job. It's your opportunity to showcase your qualifications and your skills. But what's your greatest weakness? We all have one. Never admit a weakness without turning it into a strength, and always address a weakness that isn't a problem for the job you're applying to. So analyze the key skills that are needed for that job, but talk about how you're continuing to learn and grow. One of my greatest weaknesses is Excel. I know how to use the program, but I'm continually having to, when I take the time, and I want to, because I know the assets of the program. Now, I brought that up before when Excel wasn't one of the requirements for the job applying to. So make sure the weakness isn't one of the requirements for the job. And what are your goals in the future? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Even if it's, you plan on retiring, you're not going to talk about that. To effectively answer this question, you want to talk about where you see yourself in the company, right? In other words, I hope to see myself growing and adding to this company, maybe even working my way up into management. Another common interview question, give me a time when an example, there's that behavioral question. This is where your experience plus learn equal grow or STAR method response, your success stories. And this leads into number 7. What's been your most significant achievement? Well, you're going to align some kind of achievement that's recent and relevant to the job. And your most relevant answer to this and would describe your accomplishments to highlight your job-related skills that you possess and how it can benefit the company and possibly the team. And why should I hire you? Well, that question, remember, it's not about you, it's about what you can do for the company. So give a sincere and enthusiastic summary of your qualifications and interest for the job. How do you handle stress and pressure? Managing stress in the workplace has become commonplace, you know, and employers want to know what you would typically respond with. There's never you want to indicate that you how you handle stress. Maybe it's you take on stress if you've got some stressful projects that you've have been in charge of, that you do those in the first part of the day because that's when your energy is highest and you're going to tackle that task. Because we all have stress and pressure. Maybe that you take a quick break and walk around the building, get a little exercise in, walk up and down the stairs. How would your last boss or coworker describe you? This is where you're going to talk about your relationships with others, team members that you've had in the past, maybe outside vendors or customers. Put forth positive traits about yourself, how others have seen you, hardworking, efficient, dependable, easygoing, maybe even funny. And what are you doing right now while unemployed? This is important. Employers want to know what, what you've been doing with your time since your last opportunity. Talk about upskilling. Talk about how you're taking Excel classes, or maybe that you're connecting with and networking with others within the same industry and reaching out for career advice. The key to these common interview questions is practice, and this will help you nail your interview. But sometimes there's difficult questions we have to ask, and they require a prepared response. It could be termination, the job ended, or maybe there's a disability. Now, with disability, employers are extremely limited on the types of questions they can ask about disability. I suggest that you don't disclose any type of disability, even if you have one, until a job offer is made and you need accommodations. Now, don't forget about your background check. Depending on the type of job you're applying to, they might run a background check. Or gaps in work history. Again, it could be that you haven't been working for a while because you were a caregiver for a family member, but that's no longer an issue. Or it could be that you've been investing in some training. Just talk about what you've been doing in between that time. Employers, they highly value any kind of volunteer work you've done or continuing education you've done on your own. That's important. But make sure when you're interviewing, not only are they asking you questions, you need to ask questions of the interviewer. You need to find out if this company has shared values. You know, does this employer, have values that are important to you? Identify 3 to 5 values that are important about the company culture. Compile a list of questions you can ask and then rate your interviewers. You know, was value never mentioned? Was it demonstrated? What are the company models? What do they value? So it's important. Interviewing's a two-way street. You want to be happy at the place that you're hired on. So ask those questions. Questions for the employer. When the employer says, "Do you have questions for us?" the answer should always be yes. You're going to ask at least 3 questions, and you want to find out information that hadn't been discussed or that can be found online. This really is your opportunity to talk about and find out more of what you've learned about the company and build rapport. It could be that you've researched the company and they're opening up a whole new wing and a whole new department in the company. Talk about that. Ask questions. That shows that you're interested, invested in the company. Also, ask questions to gain insight on something you didn't find out about your research. So, sample questions that you could ask. Number one, this is an excellent question to ask at an interview. I've actually used it. And when I asked the question, the interviewer said they were very impressed by the question itself. And it reads, "What are 3 things I can contribute in the first 100 days to make you feel great about hiring me?" Now, this question is a wonderful question because it gives insight that you want to know, what do I need to be doing in the first 90 to 100 days? Gives you an outline where you need to be to make sure that you're hitting the mark. Another great question for an employer: how is performance measured in the position? Or what is the work culture like? Can you tell me about the team I'll be working with? Or you could ask, is there any more information I can provide you with? I always like wrapping up with that one, as well as what is the timeline for deciding this position and when should I get back in touch with you? And don't forget salary negotiation. If the interview goes really well, they might talk to you about salary. So you want to first avoid being the first one to mention salary. Usually the one that does sort of loses. We have a great workshop, salary negotiation. You can visit our website at workforcesolutionsrca.com and sign up for all of our workshops. We talk about how to research your fair market value. In other words, how to determine that realistic salary range or even a particular salary figure due to your years of experience, your education. You always want to negotiate. If the employer can't meet the salary, maybe talk about other perks. Maybe they can offer an extra week of vacation or relocation packages. Utilize all your resources to have a clear range when it comes time to what kind of salary you interested in. Use labor market information, Glassdoor, Indeed, or reach out to staff here. We can help you. Labor market information can easily be found on Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area and Work in Texas. You can search occupations, employers. You can look by city or county. That way you can get that perfect range of what's the going salary for the job you're fixing to interview for. And closing that interview, thank the interviewers again for their time. Let them know that you want to be considered for the next step in the hiring process. And you can do this by mentioning specific reasons why you hope you're selected. And once that interview's over, send that thank you letter. Now, more days, it's an email or maybe even a LinkedIn message, maybe with a contact request. Make plans to follow up. Keep your name fresh, but respectably. Don't over email. Send out your post email. And don't forget one of your interview questions to the employer: when will you be making a decision? That way you'll know when you're going to get that phone call. Get prepared for that job offer. Practice your salary negotiation and always continue your job search. Final interview tips: arrive 15 to 20 minutes early. Get your room ready if it's going to be a video interview or whether it's a phone interview. Let others know that you're going to be interviewing so you won't be interrupted. If you're driving somewhere, map the route, maybe take a test run, and pack a survival kit. You might need a credit card or change for parking meters, bottled water, snacks, pen or notepad, and maybe some breath mints or lip balm. Well, I want to thank you for spending some time with me for this recording of preparing for the interview. If you have any questions or want to schedule a mock interview, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Again, our website is www.workforcesolutionsrca.com. Thank you.